Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome back. Our guest today is my good friend, the professor of chemistry at Cornell University, Dave Collum. Welcome back, Dave.
How are we doing? How are
Uh,
you doing?
Doing really good. Watching gold prices skyrocket, and there's so much excitement in the precious metal space right now. I wanted to get you on and talk about everything from gold, silver, the economy, politics. But first, let's start off with gold. What are your thoughts on all the excitement?
Well, I like it because it's my biggest position by a healthy margin. So I'm having a great year while equity holders are getting a little bit of a butt kicking. By the way, they're squealing like little bitches, and it has even begun to be anything approximating something that you might call a correction. So if you got a problem with this one, you shouldn't be in the markets. Um, and so I do find some of the narratives about the gold story to be a little cockeyed, or at least should I say cockeyed enough. They're not clean enough that I can understand them. So, if someone's can bring it down to the level of a golden retriever and explain them to me, that'd be fine. But you know, there's
What
all sorts of things about
what
revaluing gold.
what
Well,
narratives?
they say that gold is migrating to COMEX and I asked the question, where's it go after that? And I suggest it could be going to China. And they seem to think no. And then they just take it straight from London. I go, not if they wrote their contracts at COMEX, right?
Right.
So just because that went to, it doesn't have to follow a crow's flight from London to China. By the
No.
way, you can go cut across the country, get to China the other way, So um, they talk about revaluing it. I don't know what they mean by that. I mean, it's a well, asset that's currently set by a market price, and some people talk about revaluing it at 3,000 an ounce. Market value inside the vaults of the United States, the three big ones. I go, okay, so what you're saying is by taking 8,100 tons of gold instead of calling it $42 an ounce, whatever the number is, some low number,
Right.
and calling it the real number somehow, that's just going to change anything? What's that going to change? I mean, we could price it in any, we could put it at 100, we could put 500. We have 8,100 tons of gold. We're not going to sell it. We're
Right.
not going to give it away, right? And I hear about gold backed shit like 50-year treasuries, right? Gold backed
Yeah.
treasury, right? And I go, to back something with gold means you have to be willing to forfeit the gold,
Right.
or it's not
And they're
backed.
not willing to do that.
They're not going to give away the gold. And they say, well, 50-year treasury. I go, well, I'll promise you anything 50 years from now. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll promise you that I'll turn into a chicken 50 years from now.
Right.
You know,
It's all just words.
especially if you give me the money up front, right?
Yeah. Give me a couple billion. Don't worry.
Give me a billion, and I promise you, I'll turn into a chicken in 50 years. Um, and then they talk about setting it at 23,000 or something. I've heard numbers like that, and I go, well, okay, so we owe China $1 trillion, and we say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to up the price of gold by some fantastic amount and then send that to you instead. That doesn't make sense. China can get gold for 3,000 an ounce right now.
Yeah. What are they gonna pay freaking 10 times X or 10X or 15X for
Right.
just to pay off debt? They don't want that debt paid off. They want the control.
Right. And so none of those things make any sense to me. I think what does make sense that, I read a Bridgewater. I'm not a big Ray Dalio fan. I think he's a bit of a hoser, but I read I mean, he's not bad, but I think,
Yeah.
he's not master of the universe, in my
Right.
opinion, in macro. And a Bridgewater thing wrote about gold, and they really pointed out that 2022, which, I've written about and talked about, but real was the moment when gold kind of turned the corner hard. And that's when basically we showed via the Ukraine war that we will steal your assets. And that's when it got serious. And BRICS, which are now not just four letters that some clown at Citigroup came up with because it sounded good. There are now 25 countries that, by the way, met in Moscow to chat about the future. And I go, well, we've demonized Moscow a lot, but apparently not enough.
Yeah.
That beep you just heard, that's my fire smoke detector for some reason. It's going off now. And so we demonize Russia, yet 25 really important countries met in Russia to chat about the future.
Welcome to the Cayman Islands, a premier offshore jurisdiction where natural beauty meets financial stability. Here, your wealth is more than secure. It thrives in one of the most trusted and respected financial centers in the world. For over a decade, SWP has been the trusted choice for precious metal investors worldwide. Our purpose-built 6,000 square foot facility sets a new standard in precious metal storage. We are proud to be one of the only vault operators approved by the London Bullion Market Association. Beyond safeguarding your assets, we're committed to making a difference in our community by supporting local causes and events that reflect our values. As we continue to expand and innovate our services, we ensure that your wealth is safe and strategically positioned to shield you from the uncertainties that lie ahead. Strategic wealth preservation, trusted today and ready for tomorrow.
Yeah. I heard a statistic that 40% of the global population is in BRICS, is the BRICS nations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had a long chat with Hanky one day, and he's a currency guy, 100% currency guy. And I said, but BRICS isn't about a currency; it's about alliances. He said, absolutely.
Yeah.
These are guys we're saying we're not hanging out with the United States now. It's not. That's not a guarantee. We're going to make friends with Putin and Xi Jinping, P, um,
Well, yeah, so
guys like that.
you can't blackball them anymore.
You can't blackball them anymore because there's 25 of them, and some of them produce a lot of oil, and so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's
So
crazy. Well, what do you think about tariffs? What do you think that everything's happening between Canada, Mexico, everything that's happening with Europe and China? Do you think Trump is in the right, the wrong? Do you think it's good, bad?
well, I've heard some ideas that I think are interesting. One is, they keep going back to Smoot-Hawley and the Great Depression. I go, yeah, well, it isn't necessarily going to play out that way, right? That's just
Right.
that's a 1 point curve. Let's call it that. Um, and one person said, you're never going to get fair trade, you're never going to get free trade, but you can get balanced trade. And what it means is if I'm sending you goats and you're sending me chickens, somehow the net value of the goats and chickens has to even out, or one of us is going to start building up a big debt, and eventually the trade will stop. And so you can't have a sustainable trade imbalance without eventual, collision
Right.
with destiny. And so one thing a tariff does is it potentially evens up the trade, right?
Right.
Now, imagine we put it, let's say, out of the blue, and there's the argument that, look, we're not even charging them what they charge us on
Yeah,
tariffs.
some of
So
them are like 300% tariffs
right,
on the
so
US, like from
so
France.
right, and so you say, well, that seems fair. So it is potentially a risky move. It certainly is moving the chess pieces quickly, um, but but this it doesn't sound crazy in that context. And then I was listening to Tony Nash, who was being interviewed by Jim Iorio and Bob Iacchino. And Nash said that the economists are totally missing the critical point here, and that most of these countries, when you pop the tariff on, um, they're going to be so sensitive to the disruption in their country that they'll subsidize the exports.
Oh,
So
really?
they'll make up, and so that it will be a tariff on the government spending. It'll be a government. It'll be on the government, not on the exporters from these countries. Now, the last thing is that if, let's say, you put in a tariff and you raised $1 trillion a year from tariffs, and they say, well, that's a tax on people, and I go, okay, but now you don't have to tax them $1 trillion a year in
Right.
some other way. So maybe the income tax brackets will all drop. So if you can get no net change in the quantity of taxes, you're just changing how they're being meted out, and a balancing of trade.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't sound nuts. It could blow up, right? This is like dorking around with a Porsche and pulling out some piece of it and saying we can pull this piece out. It won't hurt anything. And I go, I don't know how many pieces of a Porsche can be pulled out before the Porsche doesn't run, but it can't be too many.
Right. And there's a lot of talk about like, if he does get rid of the income tax in the US, or some like there's some states I see in the past day or two that I don't know what state it was, but they're getting rid of the income tax.
Well, there's some bullshit here too.
Right.
The bullshit being, don't spend it till you have it. Let's start there.
Right.
Right. So when Musk said give everyone $5,000, I go, you haven't come close to saving us that much. In fact, at the end of 2025, the big question will be is what was the trade deficit for 2025?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if it's not something lower than it was heading for, then they didn't save us anything, and all we got were headlines, a lot of ink.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so, LGBTQ organizations in Afghanistan and things like that. And so there's a lot of headline crap. And I want to not only see the money stop flowing in stupid directions, but I also want to find out who sent it there.
Oh
Even
yeah.
if we don't punish them, I think we want to know. I think we want to out them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Who's sending the government and taxpayer money to all these groups?
and let's say it's an LGBTQ organization in Afghanistan. You and I both know that's not where it went, right?
No,
That's you'd bet any amount of money that's not where it went. I don't think there's a lot of those in
it's
Afghanistan.
straight money laundering, you
And
know?
so then you find out, okay, let's imagine it's some CIA black ops, and you go, okay, that's no biggie because we know they do it.
Yeah,
That's just how they do it, right?
black budgets.
Yeah, and then you say, well, let's say we paid off some warlord to do what we wanted to. We know that happens too. Let's say we gave it to Hunter Biden. Now I'm getting mad, right?
Yeah.
Let's say we gave it to Nancy Pelosi. Now I'm getting mad. Let's say
Oh
we gave it
yeah.
to AOC. Now I'm getting mad, right?
And you know what? There's a big possibility that a lot of this money that's being sent to all these crazy groups is just being laundered to a lot of these politicians.
Right, but that's what I want to find out because
Right.
there was it was a Fannie Willis or someone or Stacey Abrams, I guess it was. Um, they said she was affiliated with some organization that got 2 billion. I go, but how much did she get? Affiliated? I'm affiliated with it. AAA Auto Club.
Yeah,
If it turns out they're
doesn't mean you're
crooked,
getting all the money.
yeah, it doesn't mean that if they're crooked, I somehow pilfered free towings out of them or something. And so that's sort of innuendo that has no meaning too. So now, did you see the interview of Doge Team by Brett Baer? It's worth watching. It's worth finding.
No,
Go find
I'll look at it.
search Brett Baer's interview of the Doge Team, and it was Musk plus about seven guys. Now, here's what was really noticeable: the seven guys were big swigging dicks. These were not lightweights. One guy says, "I own three companies. I left them all to do this because America needs me right now, right now."
Right.
And they're all smart and they're all big players. And they talked about what was broken with the U.S. government. And it wasn't about stupid LGBTQ shit in Afghanistan. It was about the system not talking to itself, the system having no mechanism for money to be given back once checks are written and things like that. And so it was a very compelling story to the point where you got to the end, you go, holy shit, how much money did we give away over the last 20 years, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
So it is crazy. And it'd be horrible to think that we're past some fail-safe point. But if we had woken up 20 years ago, we wouldn't be, right? That's not a good.
Yeah, I seen an interview with Musk and he was explaining Doge and unraveling the corruption. And he said if he pushes the envelope too far and actually exposes everything, like really everything, like to the
Right.
max, he said he'll just get killed. That's why
Well,
it's like a
not
fine
only
line.
that, but it'll shock society pretty good too, right?
Right.
It'll be so that's why I think the idea of prosecuting the evildoers ignores the fact that the evildoers are probably measured in the millions.
Oh, 100%. Oh, absolutely.
So you can't just say, okay, we're just going to let's start some NGOs, build prisons, and put people in them, right? That's kind of what would have to happen.
Right.
But then there's truthiness. I've been chasing the role of pedophilia networks and trafficking and its influence on geopolitics. Here's something I just want to throw this at you. 1 to 8 million kids a year get trafficked in the world.
How many?
1 to 8 million. The numbers are soggy, so
That's insanity.
that's insanity. Now, here's what's also noticeable. Every newscaster on mainstream press now occasionally makes allusions to trafficking over the southern border, right?
Right,
Have you
right.
ever seen any of them say where they go?
No.
The answer is no, because they're
No.
not allowed to talk about that.
Why?
because those are the guys who run the world.
Oh. So they talk about it, but they're not allowed to talk
Well, they'll mention
about
the
it.
trafficking, but it's sort of like, when was the last time you saw some mainstream press guy talk about 9/11 being something besides the normal narrative?
Oh yeah, never. You'll never find that in
Tucker
mainstream.
Carlson occasionally would drop these little nuggets, but no,
Yeah, yeah.
they're stories that for which you occasionally get hints, but they won't go far enough to do any damage. Epstein, there's a great example. I mean,
Right.
how many people would be in prison for the rest of their lives of tremendous power if they really? We're not going to get the Epstein data.
No, they released the list, but it was all redacted.
Well, that list was crap.
It was all blacked out.
Well, that was also not even the full list. So Nick
Right.
Bryant, who I've been communicating with a lot, I spent 3 hours on the phone with him the other day. He released the Epstein's Black Book back in 2015. I think so. I'm trying to figure out what Bondi did. So Bondi blew it, right? So she said, "Oh, we've got it." She made it sound like it was really going to be cool and really great and really bad and this and that. And then she released a bunch of shit you could peel off the internet. And I
Oh yeah,
think
that's right. That's right.
I think, and she said she had it. Afterwards, she said, "Oh, they didn't give it to me." I go, "No, you said you had it on your desk. It was bad. So
Right.
you can't change that story."
Right.
I think that they're so clueless in their echo chamber that they thought that we would think that was a big score. When
Right.
some guy working at the 7-Eleven knows this shit, right? This is really not a new story
No,
at
they're
all.
releasing stuff that's already been out there.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's yeah, I don't think we'll ever get that list, Dave.
Nope.
No.
No, we're not going to because those are the guys who run the world.
Yeah.
And once they start toppling, they'll start singing about all the others. So let's say some guy's not an explicit Epstein guy, but the guy who is an Epstein guy, says, "Well, I'll tell you what, you cut me a break. I know who to roll over. I'll tell you some bad shit. I'll tell you what Barack Obama did. I'll tell you what, right?"
Right. But
I
they'll
just
just
read I just read a Bryant. I saw Bryant did a podcast, sort of a presentation of Obama. And they're always talking about the birth certificate and stuff. He documents in lurid detail profound CIA connections from his youth,
what,
in the very
Barack?
beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I'm
Well,
sure there's people listening who did, but I didn't.
I thought his name was changed and it wasn't even Barack
Oh
when he was.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it was Barry Sotoro and
Yeah.
all this crap, and that kind of crap doesn't bother me. JD Vance did the same, which by the way, his origin story is sketchy too. But
Interesting.
so I think there's stories out there that we're not even close to the truth. Here's one for you. I'm going to give you a nugget. This is a puzzle piece that I don't need anything to connect to it but it's entertaining. So JFK Jr. is on doing a Leno podcast, a Leno interview in 1998, I think it was.
Right.
It's right before he died and Hillary got the seat that he was going to go for. What are the odds, huh? And
Wow.
and Leno starts poking at something that he has in his pocket. So JFK pulls it out and they're laughing. They know where they're going. This was pre-planned. This was set up. And he says, I'm gonna burn in hell for reading this. But he reads a poem by a 9-year-old girl. And within 2 lines of the poem, I know she's been trafficked. I've read so much of this stuff. I go, that girl's been trafficked based on that
Really?
poem. Yeah, yeah. She starts out, she says, I'm a very yummy 9-year-old girl.
Hello, my fellow silver and gold stacker. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching the channel. Subscribe, please like the video, and also hit the notification bell. Keep stacking.
Then
Oh,
she says, I'm
geez.
yummy in a very weird sort of way. And then she says, think of me as a big piece of dough with all the toppings. I go, oh shit, she just hit Pizzagate.
Yeah,
That's
Pizzagate.
pedophile talking, right? That
Right.
9-year-old girl was Monica Lewinsky.
Really?
And so all of a sudden you go, so the whole Lewinsky scandal wasn't about some 20-something groupie who was given Hummers in the Oval Office. This girl had been trafficked.
Jeez.
And so that then connects up with the fact that I give me 10 minutes, I'll prove to you the Clinton Foundation traffics children and things like that. I can prove it
Jeez.
to you. It's easy. It's an easy case to make.
Wow.
And
That's
so then you go,
mind-blowing.
right. And so all of a sudden you go, the world's just not what we think it is. I mean, we're sitting there looking at it and it's like the Truman Show or something.
Yeah,
So,
we have just blinders on.
well, I think it's so hard to know what's true and what's not. And AI is not making it easier, right?
Oh man, that's crazy, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. I think there was that one guy in the U.S. government. This guy was in the 70s. I was watching an interview of him. I wish I could find his name, but he said, "Whatever you think your government is doing bad, it's 100 times worse.
Oh
Whatever."
yeah,
Like he's like,
there's a
think of
bunch of guys.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Think of like and he was working in governments. Like I don't even know what agency, but it was like a really popular and powerful agency in the U.S. in the 70s. And he said, think of the craziest, worst thing ever. Your government is doing 100 times worse.
Well, Daniel Ellsberg, before Kissinger got top security clearance as Secretary of State, Ellsberg, who had it, said you're going to be shocked and elated when you find out what's going on that you didn't know.
Jeez.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
yeah, I think that's true. I think the world would almost be too shocking. I think we're probably being protected from reality here a little bit. But
Yeah,
I,
because if we did get tell the actual truth and what's going on, I think people would either riot on the streets. They would either put their blinders up even more because that's, people don't even want to know the truth. They're just too in the
yeah,
matrix.
yeah. No, you need your world to be sort of self-consistent, so you create a model that allows you to sleep at night.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Dave, it's such a huge pleasure having you come down. This has been an incredible episode. And hopefully, as you know, everything develops in the market and in the world, I would absolutely love to have you back on.
Yeah, when the market's dropped another 30 or 40%, we can talk about why it's getting close.
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah, you should see what's happening now in the markets. This is just it's just crazy. There's nothing's real
Well, it
anymore.
acts like a teenager driving on black ice, right? So the swings are uncontrollable. And so you have a teenager driving down the road on black ice, fishtailing back and forth. On average, they're right on the money, but they're fishtailing back and forth
Yeah.
over during the path. So on average, we're heading in the right direction, but it's
So
moving a lot.
yeah, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave, again, huge pleasure. Everyone watching this, please go connect with Dave. Dave, where can people follow you?
I'm on Twitter at David B. Collum. My pinned tweet is an annual review that I write. And Bob Moriarty and his buddy actually turned it into a book form. So if free is too cheap for you, you can go get my year in review at Amazon.
Nice.
And I'm not getting rich. It'll pay. I think it'll pay for a handful of takeout meals and stuff. But
Nice.
that's about it. You know. And
Everyone go
but
support Dave's takeout meals,
yeah,
please.
go support my takeout meals. That's exactly right. They're health food.
Awesome. Again, everyone watching, thank you so much. Hit the like and subscribe button. And Dave would love to have you back on in the future.
Thank you.